Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel English Fluency Lab, where I help you improve your English and your communication skills. Friends, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about top 5 communication challenges in outsourced teams. Now friends, this video is going to be very beneficial for people working in the IT industry, because it is the IT industry where a lot of outsourcing happens. So let's dive into the video right away. So first of all, friends, let me talk to you about outsourcing. Now, outsourcing offers businesses flexibility and access to global talent. You already know that. However, communication can be a challenge in an outsourced environment. Communication challenges can slow down progress, create misunderstandings, and impact team cohesion. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about five biggest communication challenges in outsourced teams. I'm going to give you some tips, and I'm also going to give you some useful phrases you can use in that particular scenario. Right? So let's get started. The first challenge in outsourced teams is time zone differences. Right? What is the problem here? Now, the problem is when teams are spread across multiple time zones. Scheduling meetings, ensuring real-time collaboration, and keeping everyone aligned can be difficult. Now, friends, this becomes very, very challenging if you are, let's say, if your client is in the US and the time difference is almost about 12.5 to 13 hours. So when it's daytime for them, it's late evening out here, right? You may have to take calls at about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. So that is the problem with time zone differences. Now, delayed responses can slow down decision making and project momentum, right? What is the solution to this? Now, solution can be set clear times when you'll be working, write down important updates, and use messages that don't need quick replies. Ask team members to speak up early about problems to avoid getting stuck. Now, this point is very important, friends. Ask team members to speak up early about problems about getting stuck, right? It is very important that your communication is clear. So here are some tips on how you can manage time zone differences. Friends, you can use shared calendars and scheduling tools like Google Calendar or World Time Buddy. Set response time expecting for emails and messages, right? Because when you send out a message to someone, it may not be daytime for them. So your response may be delayed. And use time flexible tools like Loom or Notion for updates that don't require immediate responses. Right? So these are some 2 or 3 tips how you can manage time zone differences. There can be others also. I find these very helpful. Now, what are some of the useful phrases you can use? What are some of the useful phrases or sentences you can use for time zone differences? Would this time work for you given your time zone? I'll document key updates in a shared tracker so that everyone stays aligned. Feel free to reply when it's convenient for you. I'll check your response in the morning. Now, friends, there can be many more, but here I've given you 3 useful phrases for time zone differences where you are sensitive to the fact that there is a difference in the time zone and you are making the other person know that yes, there could be a challenge. So these are some of the useful phrases you can use for time zone differences. Second challenge, friends, language barriers and misinterpretation. Now, this is a very critical challenge which comes in outsourced teams. And I have faced this when I was working with a French client. Now, what is the problem out here? Differences in language proficiency, accents, and cultural communication styles can lead to misunderstandings. And friends, I have done a video on cultural misunderstandings in various regions in the world. Please do have a look at the video and I'll put a link in the description. It's easy for messages to get misinterpreted, leading to errors and confusion. What's the solution? Well, keep language simple. That's very important. Okay, don't use fancy vocabulary. Keep language simple and direct. Encourage clarification and use visuals or examples to reinforce messages. Right? Short sentences, direct, and encourage clarification and use visuals or examples to reinforce messages. Right? Let's look at some tips. Avoid idioms, jargon, or overly complex sentences. I already told you that. Encourage team members to rephrase or summarize key points. That's very important. Use written follow-ups to confirm verbal agreements. Right? Whatever you have spoken, whenever you have a language barrier, just put an email that this is what we have agreed to. And friends, seek coaching to neutralize your accent. Now, you may have an accent which the person may not understand, your client may not understand because you have a very heavy mother tongue influence. Well, then seek coaching. I mean, there are enough courses out there and enough people out there who can help you neutralize your accent. So seek coaching for that. Useful phrases in this scenario where you have a language barrier. Just to confirm, do we all agree on this approach? Could you clarify what you meant by, and then you complete the statement? Here is a quick example to illustrate my point, and then you go ahead and illustrate your point, right? I would like to summarize what we have discussed. Okay, you can put this in an email or you can summarize over the call itself. So friends, these are some useful phrases which you can use when you're on a call where your client is not speaking English or the same language which you speak, right? There can be many more, but these are some of the important ones where I've given you. Let's move on. The third challenge, friends, is lack of immediate feedback. Problem here is when working remotely, team members may hesitate to ask for help or provide feedback due to lack of face-to-face interaction. Now, what can happen because of this? This can result in misalignment, duplicated efforts, or delays in correcting mistakes. What's the solution? Well, create a culture of open feedback and check-ins. Provide multiple channels for team members to ask questions and clarify expectations. Right? Now, let me give you some tips for this. Now, schedule regular check-ins to discuss progress and roadblocks. Encourage team members to voice concerns early instead of waiting until problems escalate. Okay, so be proactive, not reactive. And create a space such as Slack instead or Notion page for ongoing feedback. Right, so there are various tools out there. I find Slack and Notion very, very useful. Right. Some of the useful phrases: if anything is unclear, feel free to ask. I'd rather clarify now than later. Right. Second phrase you can use, or sentence you can use: how are things going at your end? Do you need any support? If you have feedback on this process, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Fourth, friends, is cultural difference in communication styles. Now, as I've already told you, friends, I've already made a video on cultural differences where I've covered what a particular sentence might mean in the US, the UK, Europe, and India. Right? Please do have a look at the video. That's very, very important. You need to understand the cultural difference in communication styles. What's the problem out here? Different cultures have varying approaches to giving feedback, expressing disagreement, and handling conflict. And in that video, I've taken specific sentences. I won't take it out here, otherwise the video will become very long. A direct communication style in one culture may seem too blunt in another, while indirect feedback might be too vague for some team members. Okay, so that's the cultural difference we are talking about, and you need to be aware of that. Don't just assume that whatever your culture is, your client will have the same culture. Solution: be mindful of different communication styles and adopt accordingly. And how do you do that? Well, step number one is go and have a look at my video on cultural differences and maybe seek help, because there are enough cultural communication coaches who can help you with that. Right? Encourage open discussion about communication preferences. So these are a couple of solutions. Let's move on to the tips. Learn about cultural communication styles in your team. Right? This is very important. Learn about the culture in your team and learn about the cultural communication at different areas of the world. Ask for clarification if feedback seems unclear or too direct. Ask for clarification. That's very important. Set clear expectations for how feedback should be given and received. Let's look at some useful phrases. I want to make sure I understand correctly. Are you suggesting? And go on to summarize. Would you prefer direct feedback, or should we discuss as a team? Different teams approach this differently. How does your team usually handle feedback? Right? So ask very clearly, friends. Right? Wherever there's a cultural difference, ask rather than be misunderstood. Okay. Let's move on to the last one. Lack of team cohesion and engagement. What is the problem out here? Remote and outsourced teams often miss out on casual office interaction that help build relationships. Now, friends, when you're working in an online environment, when you're working in an outsourced environment, you miss the smoke breaks, you miss the meetings, and you miss the office gossip and all that, which motivates you at times. Now, without a sense of team spirit, collaboration can feel transactional rather than engaging. What is the solution? Well, create opportunities for informal interactions, celebrate team wins, and build connections beyond work tasks. Let me give you some tips out here. Use virtual coffee chats or team building activities to strengthen relationships. Celebrate achievements both big and small. Encourage casual conversations in team channels. Right? These are some of the tips which you can use. What are some of the useful phrases you can use for this? Great job on, and mention the specific job out here. Great job on. Let's take a moment to celebrate the team's effort. How's your week going? Anything fun planned for the weekend? We'd love to hear from your background. We'd love to hear more about your background. What led you to this role? Right. So these are some of the phrases, friends, which you can use in the last scenario. Now, friends, if you have enjoyed this video, if you have found some value in the video, please do give me a like. Please subscribe to my channel. And please do press the bell because I keep coming up with videos like this on English and communication skills. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.